the Crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 44 of Dads from the Crypt, the Tales from the Crypt podcast. My name is Jason. I am joined by Jody.
Hello.
And Mondo.
Hello.
And tonight we have a special guest straight from the Zombie Grrlz network. Welcome, Rachel, to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here in the crypt.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I love your background. We'll get to that in a moment.
My new signature fragrance.
I might require all of our guests now to have episode-specific backgrounds. And my background's a little different today. My daughter was using the computer, so she has a thing about cats vomiting rainbows, but I figured for Pride Month, I'll go with it.
Sure.
Happy Pride Month to everyone that celebrates. Yep. So Rachel, tell us about Zombie Grrlz real quick.
Yeah, so the Zombie Grrlz it's our little podcast network. We've been around for quite a while, and it's kind of grown over the years. It's made up of a handful of shows where we talk about horror from various different perspectives. Like we have the More Deadly podcast, where we focus on horror movies that are directed exclusively by women identified directors, and we sometimes talk to the women that make the films and just like are in awe of their hustle. Always, they're amazing, brilliant, underrated. Or Stream Queens, where we review horror films that you can stream on the internet, but mostly we just get drunk and goof around and then touch on the horror movie. And there's a few other ones, like we have a Stephen King podcast and different things that we've just been doing over the years with a group of my girlfriends and a few guy friends. It's a lot of fun. Just a bunch of horror nerds.
Awesome. And how do you spell that? Because it's still we can find it.
Oh, okay. So
it's confusing.
I mean, you can tell the year that we started it because it's zombie, and the kind of music that we like because it's girls, Grrlz, like riot girls.
Nice, awesome.
Well,
thanks for coming on.
I'm behind, but the last More Deadly I listened to was Satanic Panic, which you guys did.
Oh, thank you. With our friendly neighborhood Satanists from Satanic Bay Area.
Yeah, that was really good. I like that one.
Mm-hmm. They're great. They're so smart. We're just like the dummies on the show. We're just like providing a platform for them.
I feel the same way, and I always joke whenever I listen to our friend Caitlin just plug it up.
Oh, I know. She's amazing.
I listen to her podcast, and I'm like, I just feel so stupid. Like I'm the little kid that just walked in on the adult conversation.
That's how I feel whenever I'm on there too. I'm like, thank you for the pity invite. I'm delighted to come over here and say nonsense.
We're pretty lowbrow here, so you're the smartest person in the room right now by far.
We'll see.
Speaking of accolades, we have a big announcement that if you were on our Instagram or Twitter, we were gushing about. Dads from the Crypt was voted number 5 best dad hosted podcast on the podcast magazine issue out now, so check it out. What really tickles me is that we are 22 spots ahead of Joe Rogan.
Oh.
So suck it, Joe.
Before the podcast, I said, I almost don't want to be in the list anymore now that Joe Rogan's on the list.
That's gross.
I don't ever want someone to say, "Hey, you're on that list with Joe Rogan." That's
I was going to suggest like Highlandering your way up to the top, but maybe you need to Highlander your way to the down. Clear shit out.
Oh Lord.
Oh boy.
I've ranted about Joe before. I miss the days when he just was a dummy that talked about fighting.
Yeah. He's such a good announcer on UFC, but then they let him talk.
Oh yeah.
Or getting people to eat bugs,
Yeah.
He's good at that. Great.
Yep.
I've kind of said it before, but back in the day, his podcast was someone would come on that had different opinion than him and then have a discussion. And he would say, okay, you've gave me new information. I need to think about this. Nowadays, he's just like, you know what? 1 out of 10 doctors say you shouldn't brush your teeth. What is that guy onto? Let's dig into that. It's like, no, dude, like, no, fuck off. It's become a platform for him and his ideas and no longer a discussion. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like 16 too many DMT trips.
But the DMT episodes were interesting and he wasn't bashing people for their beliefs.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Tonight, moving on. Or lose half of our Joe Rogan
Let's
fans.
talk more about DMT.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Always been
The worker
curious,
elves.
but yeah. All right, tonight we will be discussing Tales from the Crypt episode of Beauty Rest, which premiered on July 11th, 1992. I see Jody is limbering up. He's stretching his arms.
Haven't done one of these in a little bit. I'm got to be prepared.
You got to warm up. Get your plot synopsis on.
All right, so we open up on the Crypt Keeper in full workout gear, doing some push-ups, getting in shape.
I love the Crypt Keeper working out. It's like the second or third time he's on that, chef's kiss every time.
Yeah, again, anytime you can move that puppet more, put him in a costume, it's best. It's the best.
And has his hair ever looked more luxurious than it does in this episode? Those glossy locks.
And after we get into the actual episode, we open on the back of a woman's neck as she talks to the camera and says, "What's your favorite part of a woman?" And then names a bunch of parts and then asks if it's her mind. And at this point, I'm thinking, what kind of episode is this? I know Tales from the Crypt can do the Red Shoe Diaries episodes from time to time. I didn't know if that's what we're getting into. But no, this is an ad for Ballbuster Perfume, as she is an actress. Her name is Helen. And after she does her test screening, the director raves about her amazing performance and says, you are the Ballbuster girl. So.
And he hands her the most amazing prop of all time that Rachel is proudly displaying with a ball perfume saying Ballbuster with two ballasts hanging from it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's like perfume nuts is what you're getting at. Like,
instead of truck nuts.
If
you guys are listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, just stop what you're doing and go to YouTube so you can see Rachel's background right now.
I loved hopping into the chat and I'm like, how long will it take? It didn't take long.
3 seconds.
So anyway, after the shoot where she definitely got it, she's talking with her agent Archie and finds out she didn't actually get the part. She's a struggling actress. She's looking for a big break and just can't make it happen. She asks Archie who got the part, and he tries to dodge the question for a while before he reveals that it is her roommate, Joyce, who actually got it. And she sighs and gets angry and says Joyce had to have slept with the director to get the role. And she says, there's just some things that I'm not willing to do to get a part. Helen gets home. Joyce excitedly starts to tell her some good news, and Helen just yells at her and says, you slept your way through. And Joyce doesn't know what she's talking about. She didn't even know she got in the part. And then Helen accused her of sleeping away into all these parts and tries to kick her out of the apartment. They said, we're not friends. She gets angry at her. And the good news she was trying to tell her was that she was going to win a rigged beauty pageant. And Helen just has a complete meltdown over this, like completely unhinged, almost takes a bunch of sleeping pills, but then she stops at the last second. Then we see her bringing Joyce a cup of tea. And since we're all Tales from the Crypt fans, we know what's in that cup of tea. She apologizes to her. And as Joyce drinks the tea and gets dressed, Helen asks her some questions about the beauty pageant. She says, what is this beauty pageant? What do you win? And Joyce says she thinks you get to be the spokesperson for this company, but she starts struggling to find her words as the sleeping pills take effect. And then she falls down on the bed with her eyes open. Helen gets the letter out of Joyce's purse, and it says, this girl is what we want. Have her win. Tom.
Can we say for a second, though, that bottle of sleeping pills were called like tranquilizers and had a giant like skull and crossbones on them?
I think they were like doze offs.
Yeah. Probably take off of no dose from the 90s or 80s. But man, like why would you buy? Why would you buy that? Why would you have that just sitting around the house?
You're walking through the drugstore over at Walgreens. You're like, okay, Unisom. Oh, what about this that looks like rat poison? That's the one I want.
I mean, I suffer from insomnia. I might be tempted. They didn't have the sledgehammer, so I'm gonna get the doze off.
And so she gets the note, but then she starts to look at Joyce closer and finds out, no, she's not actually asleep. She's dead. And she stages the scene to make it look like Joyce committed suicide. Helen shows up at the contest and looks for this guy named George, George is talking to another pageant contestant named Drusilla, and Helen asks to speak with him. They go off privately, and she gives him the note. And he's like, okay, well, if Tom wants you to win, you're going to win. Drusilla overhears this whole conversation. Helen goes to her dressing room. Drusilla follows her and then accuses her of sleeping her way to the top. And George interrupts, says they need to see her in her costume. And she asks, when I win this as the spokesperson, what am I going to be selling? He says, you're going to be selling yourself, who you are on the inside. During the pageant, George is asking the contestants some questions, and one lady gives one of those like beauty pageant responses that would have been on YouTube because it makes no sense. And then he asks Helen her question, what do you feel the most guilty about, and why did you do it? It's a little different. I like that. I would watch a beauty contestant pageant that made everyone feel very awkward and uncomfortable and ask probing questions. But she said, I don't feel guilty. It's what's on the inside that counts. After Helen asked George what kind of question that was backstage, he tears up the note and says, it never existed. I don't have anything to do with all this. Does that mean I don't win? And Helen goes to Drusilla's dressing room and accuses her of sleeping with George. Anytime a woman is succeeding in this world, Helen accuses her of sleeping with somebody to get that role. She says, no, I actually was going to sue him for sexual harassment for letting you win for sleeping with Tom. And Helen says, I'm not that kind of girl. I'm this kind of girl, and strangles Drusilla and throws her in the back of a closet. She tells George that Drusilla left, and he said, okay, well, do you still want to win this thing? Yes. Okay, so Helen is taken to a dark room and put in a chair that looks like a doctor's office chair. A guy named Rudy starts like examining her and like feeling all over her face and looking at her bone structure, and puts makeup on her. And she's like, I can do my own makeup. I don't need you to do all this. And she tells him to stop. But then George shows up with a syringe full of a strange glowing blue liquid. Back on stage, George is doing one of those beauty pageant songs to introduce Helen as the winner. And that's when we find out that she won the title of Miss Autopsy 1992. Helen has been cut open and posed, her skin peeled back and pinned to this tray. You can see all of her guts on display as George sings multiple times, it's what's inside that counts.
Love it.
Great ending.
Thank you, Jody. All right, Rachel, you are our guest, so you can go ahead and start us off. What did you think of this episode?
So I didn't exactly love it, but I did like it. But more, I think it's really interesting because I don't know how intentional this is, but at its core, I think it's this really interesting cautionary tale about internalized misogyny, as well as like horizontal hostility and the way that the system sets women up to compete against one another. We're, like you said at the beginning, we're introduced to Helen in pieces. We see her neck, we see her hair, we see her shoulder. She's like immediately objectified. And the twist is, oh, no, but this is a girl boss commercial. She is the ball buster, complete with my favorite prop. But it's like this, funhouse mirror of what feminism or like women's liberation looks like to people who are against it, this is the way that they critique it. And she's not necessarily someone that adheres to this, because we see essentially, as soon as she finds out she's not getting what she wants in this men's world, her anger is not directed at the system or the men that have the kind of power that allow her to move forward or not, but she points all of that hostility towards her roommate. Like, it's all this internalized misogyny and how much she hates her roommate. We don't know whether or not she slept with the guy or not. It doesn't matter though, because of this, there's no way that she would believe anything otherwise. And, she becomes hysterical, which is again, kind of a loaded kind of response. And we never see any solidarity, even later on when that dynamic gets flipped on her and she's the one being accused wrongfully of sleeping her way to the top. Instead of discovering any kind of empathy, her response is to essentially she kills the woman, right? And then kind of gets her just dessert. So I don't think this is exactly a pro-woman episode, but I do think it's actually like a really good takedown of internalized misogyny. So I don't know. I watched it a couple times and was kind of like, I'm weirdly into this, even though I don't know if this is what it was intended.
I think maybe unintentional or not, it's there. What it reminded me
Mhm.
is if you guys, I think all three of you have seen Fresh. There's that
Mhm.
scene
Yeah.
right at the end where she yells, "You're part of the problem." Or
It's bitches like you.
yeah, it reminded me of that moment where it's like you are propagating this.
Mhm.
Now, Rachel, I forgot to ask what your experience has been with Tales from the Crypt. Did you grow up watching it? Are you newer to it?
So I'm newer. Well, okay. So I didn't have cable growing up, and I had
Mhm.
I lived in a very religious household, so I didn't have access to a lot of this stuff. This was like very much the thing that was a treat when I went to a friend's house who had HBO, and we would watch it late at night. So I haven't seen a ton of it, but I've seen bits and pieces, and I
Mhm.
anticipated this. So I was trying to remember what my favorite episode was, and I didn't want to just be like the one with Bishop from Aliens and the Russian roulette and
Oh yeah,
poker.
cutting
So
cards.
yes, so
That's
it's
a good
cutting
one.
cards, which I
Yeah.
rewatched today, and
That's a great one.
holy shit, does that hold up?
Mhm.
It's so incredible.
That's my wife's favorite episode too. That's
It's
such a
so
episode.
good. It's so good. It's kind of crazy that these are in the same show, because this one's such high camp and that one is like incredibly tense.
Let's see
That's
the beauty of
that's one of the
anthology.
episodes I think they could have fleshed out to a whole movie.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Like the backstory of those guys all the way through. I still want that someday. If I ever become a billionaire, I'll see if Lance Henriksen is still rolling to do some shit.
I mean, he seems like he's pretty up for anything these days.
Oh, yeah. if you have a checkbook, he's there.
You
All right,
give me some of that
Mondo.
triad money.
Oh, yeah.
Mondo, what did you think of this episode?
Man, I have to follow that really intellectual take.
I know.
I don't know.
No. What was great though is I was kind of thinking the same thing, but I did not know how to eloquently put that you did. How it was weird. How I really liked towards the end how the one woman was like, hell no, I didn't sleep with him. I filed a lawsuit because he's a piece of crap and he sexually harassed me.
Mhm.
I really like that because I didn't think it was going to go there, and especially for the early '90s, it's kind of cool they went that direction when they didn't have to. They could have gone really sleazy with it.
Mhm.
And they didn't do that. But overall, I did enjoy this episode. Not my favorite. I love Jennifer Rubin in it. Jennifer Rubin, just from even though she's from Nightmare on Elm Street 3,
Yeah.
one of my favorite characters in that movie, and one of the most, in my opinion, one of the grossest death scenes in Nightmare on Elm Street with the sucking pores or the. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's a weird, it's a great scene. I love that. And Kathy Ireland, everybody's like back in '93, all of our crushes, who by the way follows me on Twitter. I don't know what happened. She followed me one day, but I'm not gonna follow her back. I'm gonna
Playing it cool.
Power move.
I'm playing it cool.
What do they call that? Negging?
I have no idea. I'm gonna give it like a month. I don't want to seem like I'm too eager to follow her back. So
Oh my god.
and does not follow the podcast. I don't know what happened there, but we'll just we'll just say that. But yeah, overall, really good episode. Love some of the imagery. I love the final scene and the final shot. Like again, and also with Helen, they play her in a way where she's by far the antagonist in the entire she's obviously it's the same, it's this kind of thing of she's the woman tearing another woman down, doesn't believe anyone has talent but her, so there's no way these people can be successful if she's not successful, and then she's willing to obviously do these really terrible things to get above other people, and then at the end she got what she deserved. But all those people that were there at the end are terrible people. But I do love the fact I have this doctor who comes in smoking a cigarette with an iron cross earring, leather vest. I'm like, I don't think this guy's a real doctor.
It doesn't seem like it's on the up and up.
He's a mortician.
Yeah, he reminds me of oh god, like what is it, the vet from like Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, that's just like, just go sit in the back and I'll do your medical exams. No, not a knock on vets who are like some of the best people in the world, but yeah. And ooh,
Your dog
Sorry.
disagrees.
Jason, keep your dog is like, vet, what the fuck?
Don't you talk shit about my vet.
Yeah, but again, not top tier Tales from the Crypt episode, perfectly fine episode. A question for you guys. Kathy Ireland, who really wasn't an actress, and they often, like especially back in those days, put these supermodels into roles when they could. Do you think was she intentionally? Because I couldn't tell if she was a bad actress or she's intentionally kind of playing it very good. I don't know.
I want to say she's playing a little bit ditzy, not to.
Okay.
I don't love that
Yeah.
word to describe people, but I think she was playing a type.
Yeah, I mean it's Tales from the Crypt. You
Yeah.
kind of play camp, and I think she was doing a little bit of that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Kind of playing a role.
I
mean,
she's
she's also kind of this very stereotypical, like idealized, super hot, not very smart, very amiable, up,
Mhm.
you know, like so kind, so gentle, so forgiving. Like I do think that there's some of that dynamic at play with that character, and maybe it's just also really well cast.
Yeah, that could definitely be too.
Mhm.
All right, Jody, what did you think of this episode?
Yeah, no, this is an episode that I enjoyed watching. Like I thought everything was really well done. It was well acted. I loved the twist at the end, particularly because I think what made this episode kind of hard is the lead character is so unlikable. Like the way that she's played as just tearing down everyone around her, and the whole thing about, like I mentioned it in my synopsis, anytime anyone succeeds that's not her, she accuses them of sleeping their way through to get to that point. And it just the amount of jealousy that this character displayed made her really, really unlikable. So it was really satisfying in the end to see that turned back on her, that everything that she tried to do actually led her to this point.
Mhm.
She had multiple exits along the way. Like she was not going to win the contest, but she just insisted on winning. She killed her roommate who had done nothing wrong as far as we know, or even if she had, still, like there wasn't even a possibility that it could have been anything about she gave a better performance or she did a good job. It's no, she must have done something behind the scenes. And so I was really getting tired of her by the end of it, and the show took care of her. And so I appreciate that.
I've always said, like the episodes I really don't like of Tales from the Crypt, when you have these antagonists, you don't have anybody to, when you have these antagonists and for somehow at the very end they somehow win. Like
Or they don't, or maybe they just don't get it as bad even.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, they don't get what they deserve at the end. And this one, she definitely got what she deserved.
But it was well acted, well directed. It was a good episode, and the ending twist was really nice. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So yeah, like everyone else has said, I don't think this is top tier, but it's definitely a good episode. Like I wouldn't object to watching it any other time.
Yeah,
it's interesting for being season 4 when season 3 is definitely the sweet spot. There have been some really good episodes this season, and it's been pretty solid aside from a couple that I'm like,
yeah, I'm starting to think maybe the sweet spot is more season 3, and at least this far into season 4, I think we're still in the edges of the sweet spot.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in. I really like this episode. It's kind of a mixture of two of my other very highly regarded episodes. It's reminding me a lot of Top Billing, where someone kind of gets, where people in the entertainment business are trying to get a leg up, and they're trying to screw over their competitors, and they kind of stumble into a deadly scenario. And also Morning Mess with a Steven Weber one with the ghouls, and there's this kind of secret society kind of thing. So it's kind of a mixture of those two, which makes this one a little bit less original, but it was a good meshing of the two. This one had some really funny scenes. First of all, the opening sequence with that commercial, the fact that you realize that was an audition, but they're doing it like full production.
Yeah.
They're not just in there reading lines, they actually have like all the choreography and all the camera moves and everything. The fact that they would do that for like just people auditioning is just ludicrous.
Right.
Yeah, looking back on other Tales from the Crypt audition scenes, like the one from Top Billing, that was like in a office, like somebody was just talking to somebody. This one, they went all out.
Well, even when they actually filmed the real commercial, it was like a whole stage production. And I sometimes wonder if that's just the director and the crew just having fun.
No, yeah, it's solely just to be over the top. It's to trick you into thinking you're watching the thing. Yeah. And then they have this really kind of eccentric director character who I thought was really funny. The character's name is Emilio. He's played by Anders Hove, who was a New Zealand actor. He was in Critters 4, which I thought was kind of funny. Let's see. Oh, another thing that I thought was really funny. There's a scene where Helen is upset, so she goes in the kitchen and she opens the cupboard and it's just full of rice cakes.
Yeah.
It's a whole
Yeah.
cupboard
Uh-huh.
full of rice cakes, and she like takes a couple bites and she's like, ugh. So she opens the refrigerator. The refrigerator is just full of junk food. There's like ice cream, there's pizza, there's donuts. And she keeps pulling out more and more junk food.
Man, I was trying to, I meant to pause that screen and screenshot it because I just love seeing that. For me, it's nostalgic seeing those old food packaging that I saw when I was a kid. Like it's just fun for me. And I always like seeing, like, sometimes when you see that kind of stuff, it's like, what does a millionaire Hollywood director think a normal person has in their fridge?
Yeah.
A whole pizza. We used to have whole pizzas just sitting in our fridge.
Yeah, it's like Jay, it's like you with your baguettes.
Yeah.
Were you the one talking about the baguettes and the bread everywhere?
Yeah, every time there's a grocery bag, there's always a baguette sticking out.
Oh,
yeah, you know, you're right.
Yeah, that's like the thing that Hollywood thinks everyone shops for is oversized baguettes.
This will only be a question for you for the video watchers. Should I answer this call at fucking 9 o'clock at night? No
I
caller.
can't see it.
No.
It's just no caller ID.
Oh, nope.
Seems legit.
And then there's another funny part where she thinks her roommate's dying, basically, and she earnestly starts to do CPR, but on like the softest bed possible. So,
Yeah.
so they're just both bouncing up and down.
Mhm.
I just thought those parts were just like really campy, really funny.
Mhm.
That part's also funny because she kills her, and then she's like, "Oh shit, I killed her." Like, yeah, dude, you gave her like half a bottle of sleeping pills. What do you expect?
Did you not see the label?
Yeah,
Right.
It was like, this is murder. This is a bottle of murder.
If you ever see any bottle with skull and crossbones on it, you feed it to somebody, you have to expect that they're gonna die.
So yeah, there's lots of really, also that song at the end was hilarious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He rhymes like suture with future. It was
Yeah.
really great.
It was
I thought that was really funny.
Mhm.
So just to run down the talent, this was directed by Stephen Hopkins, who did Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Predator 2, Lost in the 90s, Lost in Space movie, for all you late 90s Matthew
LeBlanc.
thank you. That was a good one. Helen is played by Mimi Rogers. She was in I think it was a soap opera called Paper Dolls that also had to do with agent models. She was in the first Austin Powers movie. She was also in Lost in Space. She was in the X-Files as Agent Foley.
She's also the first Mrs. Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I was going to bring that one up. I guess Top Gun's a big hot item right now.
Mhm.
I think she was in
Has
Ginger
anyone
Snaps. I think she was the mom.
Oh,
Was she? Holy shit.
She was
I don't
someone in Ginger
remember.
Snaps. I haven't seen it in a while. She was also in Ash versus Evil Dead. And she's in Bosch, which I haven't seen, but she's in a ton of episodes.
have any of you guys seen the new Top Gun?
Not
I
yet.
walked
haven't either.
into it for like a minute, and just the rumbling just made me want to.
I mean,
give me a headache almost.
I just want to know if Danger Zone if they play Danger Zone at some point.
I don't.
They do. I know.
Do
I
they?
read
I know
something
he
that-
recorded a
Yeah.
new version, but they didn't use it.
but they
Oh.
still played I think they wanted the original feel or something.
Mhm.
So if you want your Danger Zone, you'll get your fix.
I wonder when Kenny Loggins plays live, if he just plays Danger Zone first and like 90% of the crowd just walks out after that.
I mean, name another Kenny Loggins joint.
Right.
Every other song should just be called Not Danger Zone.
All right, Drusilla is played by Jennifer Rubin, as we talked about in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. She's also in The Crush and Screamers. More 90s camp for you.
Right. I remember
Um,
that one.
Joyce is played by Kathy Ireland, who was in Melrose Place and Mom and Dad Save the World. Again, more 90s. So George, the host, I suppose, of the pageant, is played by Buck Henry, who is like a prolific writer. He did a ton of acting. He did a little bit of directing, but he wrote The Graduate, What's Up, Doc, and a bunch of Get Smart episodes.
He was a co-creator of Get Smart, actually. With
He was a co-creator. Yeah, I
Mel
love.
Brooks, which is one of my favorite shows in the
Oh, I
history of the
love
world.
it. My wife had never heard of Get Smart, so I just found some stuff on YouTube and I went down the rabbit hole.
Did
That
she not grow
was-
up on Nick at Night like I did?
No.
That was like when I was a kid, I was little. That was me and my grandpa's show. Like we'd watch that together every
Mhm.
night. And when they moved it back 30 minutes on Nick at Night, it was a big discussion in our household if they're gonna let me stay up
Aw.
30 minutes later to watch Nick and I. My grandpa
Nice.
overrode. My grandpa overrode everybody. He said, "Yeah, we're
Ah.
watching Get Smart." and for anybody out there who hasn't seen it, like that show still holds up today. There is some iffy stuff on there. I'm not gonna lie.
The
Yeah,
1960s.
there's some
But,
casual, especially Asian racism.
Well, what I love about it is
Ooh.
there's actually Mel Brooks is really good about playing with those kind of things,
Yeah.
play with fears. And there's like the 3rd episode of the 1st season when they keep calling the Asian people Orientals, and they're looking for somebody, and he's harassing this Asian man who's like a bellhop, and he goes, "Did you see this man?" He goes like, "I don't know. All you white people look the same." And I laughed so much that like I wonder if people got angry back in the 60s of that line. Because he was kind of trying to flip that around, but it's one of my favorite shows of all time. I love it.
Yeah. And then the agent Archie is played by Robert Trebor, who's in a bunch of things, but mostly he was in a recurring character in the Hercules and Xena series. It's kind of a crossover character. And he was also had a bit part in The Devil's Rejects. So this is a really good cast.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah, I think the cast is really strong. I think the writing, especially that song at the end, which I reached out, Al's gonna send us some stuff, but I'm pretty sure Buck Henry had to have wrote it himself, or at least he had to have a big hand in it because it's got his wit all over it.
Totally.
What's funny is like Hercules with Kevin Sorbo. Kevin Sorbo trying to be like the worst person ever,
Yeah.
and Lucy Lawless is just like the best and talk shit. I was talking shit to him all the time on Twitter, and it was great.
All right, Jody, do we have a comic comparison?
Yeah. So this came from Vault of Horror number 35, February 1954 issue. This is the same issue as And All Through the House, by the way. Season 1 classic Killer Santa Claus episode. The script was by Jack Olek, which is not a name I see pop up very often. It had a question mark by it, though, so I don't think it was signed, so they're not 100% sure, but they think that's who did it. But the art was by Jack Coleman, who we've referenced multiple times on here, and he even had his own episode of Tales from the Crypt. So in this one, okay, 1950s. Okay, 1950s women. I'm sorry for for the things that happen here.
Do you want me to cover my ears? Earmuffs?
Helen is jealous that Joyce is always going out on dates. She gets all the boys. There they are, roommates. And then she finds out Joyce is going to win this beauty contest. Joyce knows that the beauty contest is to be Miss Corpse of 1954, but it's all a publicity stunt for the Undertakers and Embalmers Association convention. But it could lead to some real work. They're both struggling models. Helen knocks out Joyce with sleeping pills and then goes to the contest, wins the contest on stage, and then goes home after being told to come back later that night for the press stuff. She goes home, finds out that Joyce actually died from the sleeping pills, and then goes to the ceremony, and it's in a dark, dank cellar. Those are the actual words. And they tell her that Miss Corpse 1954 must actually be a corpse. And it ends with a group of men advancing on her with knives to stab her. And the crypt keeper tells a little, blurb at the end about how they slashed and sliced her to bits. So, yeah, apparently in this version, instead of it being that
Reanimator
her
concoction.
Yeah, in this version, it's just a bunch of murderers who got together to do a beauty pageant to murder somebody at the end. So same basic structure, but weird ending.
Yeah, it's pretty dark, man.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those where like they show so little, but it just leaves so much more to the imagination. Because there's only like that one panel of all the men around her. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, they're all surrounding her and they have knives in their hands.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
It's bad. That's a bad ending.
Imagination.
I do greatly prefer the gore scene at the end of the episode to that, because the imagination leads some real dark places in that comic. Imagine being a 12-year-old boy reading that. There's a reason why parents were outraged about these comics, even if I do love them.
But yeah, no, the juxtaposition in the actual the TV episode of the gore with the song, and just the big and the big reveal, the fact they saved that to that moment.
Yeah, and the way it's done, it's like, so it's almost like burlesque. It's this dream sequence, like a under the sea or something, and they slowly reveal, and
Mhm.
it's pretty
Oh yeah,
great.
because they have like curtains over her, so you don't really see.
Mhm.
They
Did
pull
you
back the
guys-
curtains.
I vaguely remember the ending to this one. Did you guys have any like clue that was what was going to happen?
No, I didn't.
I
mean, up
knew
until we saw
something
the,
was gonna happen, but I
Makeup
didn't.
chair that definitely was not a makeup
Yeah.
chair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, they kept talking about like beauty is inside. So I knew we were getting inside
Mhm.
somehow, but
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be some sort of product. I wasn't expecting this autopsy, which was, I laughed. I thought it was pretty great.
Yeah.
Pretty
Mhm.
clever.
My first thought was that Ballbuster was going to be made with some kind of weird internal organ, and that's what they're auditioning people for. That was my first thought, but I actually like the way they went with the Miss Autopsy even better.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to our episode ranking. So we rank 0 to 5, 5 being the best. You can do half points. Rachel, as our guest, what do you rate this episode?
I don't have anything to compare it to, but I would say, okay, 5. I'm sorry, you said number 5 is the best.
5 is the best.
I would say 3.5.
Okay, fair enough. Jody.
Going up a little bit higher just because of the reveal at the end. And I think the main actress did such a good job of being a terrible person that I'm going to bump it up just a little bit and make it a 4.
Mondo.
Yep, also 3.5. Again, it was better than a lot of the middle of the road episodes, but not top tier for me. But definitely, I think it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I think on paper this would probably be a little bit lower, but I think the execution of it is so good. I think Buck Henry at the end just really puts it over the top for me. So I'm going with a 4. I think, again, it's not the most original episode.
Was that a prediction?
Yep.
Yeah, Mondo. So for those of you listening, Mondo just put up a piece of paper that had the big 4 on it because it like my rating. But yeah, like again, I think the execution, the sum elevates it over what it probably could have been. I think with like a different cast, a different director, this would have been a so-so episode, but I think it just comes out so good in the end. Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up our episode review. We're going to insert an Al anecdote here. So take it away, Al. Special editing. All right. Thank you, Al. Mondo, why don't you give us your song of the day?
All right, this week I'm gonna go with a Norwegian black metal band. Shocker. By the name Gorgoroth. One thing funny about the early 90s black metal bands that always tried to be all dark and evil is most of them took their names from Tolkien. Gorgoroth being like I think it's one of the lands of Mordor or something like that, a place in Mordor. I know it's Tolkien related because they're all basically early black metal bands. They thought they're evil. They were just LARPers. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But reason I'm going with Gorgoroth. I'm going off the record. I'm gonna butcher this name because I think it's Latin. Ad majorem Satanis gloriam, which means to the greater glory of Satan in English. And the song I'm gonna go with off that record is called Prosperity and Beauty. I think it fits right in this episode. But one of the cool things about Gorgoroth is the front man used to be a man by the name of Gaul, Gaal, who was like probably the first person in the genre to come out as being openly gay. And it's kind of funny and again, as a huge fan of black metal, I mock its followers all the time because for a genre that's supposed to be about individuality and kind of following the left-hand path, if you want to get the Satanism aspect of it, has a dress code and has certain ideals they want you to fit in. And man, like when dude came out, people like sending him death threats, and he was shunned by a lot of people, mostly fans, not the artist so much, for being an openly gay artist. And he was like, fuck all of you, like this is the most metal shit you can do, is be who you are. And he's always been a preacher of individuality, and that's kind of cool. So I think it fits in with Pride Month starting up, is picking one of the few people in that genre that had the balls to say fuck all of you, this is who I am, and accept it or not. And he's done a lot of other work with other bands. What just came out, a record from his other band Grrlz. It's called Grrlz Weird, WYRD. I'm probably mispronouncing that. He's got a band called Gallskag. He did Trelldom back in the day. And he actually was a fashion designer for a little while. I think he's still doing some fashion stuff. But yep, song of the week, Prosperity and Beauty off the album Ad Majorem Satanis Gloriam by the band Gorgoroth.
All right. Thank you, Mondo.
Oh, and real fast too. The
Oh,
other fun
yes.
thing is if you can find their performance when they played in Poland and were all arrested for blasphemy, it is a show. Like, so Poland still has very strict blasphemy laws,
Mhm.
and you can go to. It's kind of interesting because God, I'm getting on a tangent here. But a band Behemoth is kind of popular with the frontman Nurgle. He actually did a song about cancel culture. And usually that's eye rolling cringy as fuck, but he didn't mean it about that. He meant it about the fact that when he was in Poland, he went on trial for blasphemy because his music said satanic things that were against the church. And that's what he's
like
talking about.
Actual cancel
Yes.
culture, not somebody calling you an asshole for
Yeah. And
being
you know,
an asshole on the
Yeah.
internet.
And I'm not gonna I don't know how the guy is personally, so I can't vouch for it. And I'm sure someone out there will hear this and be like, no, he sucks. Maybe he does. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I know in Poland, though, they have very strict laws against being against a church. So when Gorgoroth played a show in Poland, they had people, obviously people who were paid and were okay with it, like tied to crosses and goats' heads and stuff, and
Jesus.
just fucking went all out blasphemy, upside down crosses everywhere on fire. And they got arrested for blasphemy. But that's like real persecution when you think about it, because that's not protected by Poland's laws. It's the opposite, where the laws say you cannot speak out against a church, which is a whole different thing. So if you guys want to see something cool, like look up they ended up putting out to a DVD, so who knows how much of it was a work, how much of it they actually finagled there, but you can find it on YouTube. If you just type in Gorgoroth Poland, it'll pop up.
Nice. Okay.
Some
Jody.
interesting documentaries about Gull too, like the guy that went and stayed with him up on the mountain.
Was that the time when there's a documentary where he just didn't like the guy that's interviewing him because he knew the guy wasn't into it. The guy was just doing it for clout. So he'd ask him a question and Gull would just sit there with his wine glass and go,
Yeah.
you've seen this, he just Satan. Like every answer was Satan.
I don't know. I've seen a couple, and there's one where he goes to the guy's house and he takes him up on the hike, and that guy starts getting really scared.
I think that was the same one.
Yeah, because he's getting a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and granted, a lot of these guys in that scene did some bad stuff. I'm just gonna be honest. Gall got arrested for assault of somebody.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it during Pride Month,
no,
but yeah,
let's be honest.
he's a problematic figure.
He can be a problematic figure, but he also has said this is what happened, and I was trying to be an edgy. That whole story, from what it sounds like, got blown proportion because he didn't want to lose his credibility in the scene.
Gotcha.
It wasn't what it was.
It wasn't a partner that he held captive in his home.
Apparently, what it turned out was someone who broke into his house.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Either way, it was wrong. It happened a long time ago, and he since said what I did there was wrong. And I kind of respect people that are more you have people that will apologize for shit, but they're telling you they're apologizing for the fact that they got caught doing some shit. And
I'm sorry if you were offended.
Yeah, I'm sorry you were offended by my language. No. And there's people who are no, I was an asshole and was a terrible human being. There's a wrestler, and we'll go. It sounds weird, but Jay Briscoe, who said some homophobic shit, and then he later came out and said, you know what? I was young, and I am fucking appalled that I ever said that, because I am a different person. I've met people around the world who all showed me why I'm an asshole, and that's a kind of apology I'll accept. I want to accept apologies. I'm sorry that you didn't like what I said. Nah, dude, that's not that's not okay.
Yeah. And there's got to be room for people to grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if you make one mistake and that's it, that's not fair. If you grow, you gotta let people have that opportunity to redeem themselves. Yeah,
100%. And you know what? If I'm wrong, I don't follow the personalized people.
I don't know.
Super.
You would know more than I would at this point. It's been a long time since I checked in on old Gull on his mountain.
I was either probably gonna go with him or with actually another band called Autopsy, which is just too obvious. But I love the fact these aging metal bands, they just played Maryland Death Fest over the weekend, are just guys that look like fucking soccer dads up there playing this brutal form of music. And that, for me, that's so endearing to me, because it's It's funny that all this extreme music I grew up with is now like dad rock.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Totally.
I hear this shit kids listen to this now. I'm like, fuck, dude, this shit I was listening to that came out in 92 to 98 is way harder than the fucking shit you're listening to, but you call this stuff dad rock. Fucking kids.
Yeah, it was. I kept having the conversation with my wife during the Super Bowl this year when Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg were playing the Super Bowl. I'm like, this is the music like everyone's mom was afraid of when I was listening to it, and now it's on the Super Bowl. That's the sign that you've gotten old. Is when the stuff that used to be edgy and like upset parents is now like played in the grocery store. You're like, is that ludicrous?
One of my favorite figures in the black metal scene. Well, he's got his issues. Was a guy named Abbott from the band Immortal. So it's kind of funny because when you ever heard him on stage, he was like a stand-up comedian, and you realize he never took any of this too seriously. So the fact where like one of the first ever Immortal videos, he's got the corpse paint on, trying to look scary, but then he gets this obvious like spirit Halloween witch's hat that he puts on, and he's like behind the tree, like popping out behind the trees. And you know, at the time as a kid, I was like, this is kind of lame. As an adult, I'm like, fuck, I get it. He was just having fun with the whole thing, and it's like nowadays,
corpse paint is kind of funny. Like I saw Jimmy Borgare in the middle of the day at Ozfest a million years ago. They were just like on their keyboards, their faces were melting.
Oh man, my favorite
we'll get to spooky beauty advice in a moment.
No, but my favorite thing about doing boards is a guy named Galder. He's also the front man from Old Man's Child, and he just paints his face like Uncle Fester. But when you watch him play, his whole goal is to make as many funny faces as possible. Like you can tell he gets it, right? He's just like he'll be playing, just make the most random, like wacky face to crack people up. And and like, oh man, I can go on a rant about how nowadays like the whole black metal scene is infested with all these basement kids. I call them bedroom black metal kids who try to like portray that aesthetic. And I'm like, dude, it's not, it's just lame.
You're not true black metal.
Well, I don't care if good music,
Mondo
good music, right?
gatekeeping.
No, because there's some are really fucking good, and they're really fucking good. I'll buy your record and support you. But if you're trying to record your shit with a Sony boombox from 20 years ago, like, come on, dude, we're past that. But I just think it's funny because like they go over the top of trying to be scary. And like I remember this band. I'm not gonna say the name of the band because it was so cringeworthy. I can't even talk about them. But they posted like, we recorded this album on the full moon on a Friday the 13th while consuming nothing but pig's blood. And I'm like, dude, that's so unhealthy. Like eat a banana. Like it's potassium, it'll make you feel better. But I just can't deal with that anymore because you know back in the day when it was like these young kids doing it and it was like new, it was something scary. And I'm not advocating people going and burning churches down. You should probably burn some churches.
You heard it here. Burn a church. Signed Armando.
Churches suck, but it'd be super illegal, I think, if I said you should go burn a church now. But I think that's weird if I just said, like, you know, hey, if you're listening to this and you burn a church down, that's kind of cool. I shouldn't say that. But
Lords of Chaos is not an instruction manual. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
It's not an instruction manual, but if you burn a church down and nobody got hurt, they don't pay taxes, so who cares?
Oh wow.
We don't have
We do not
for this
endorse
show,
this.
but
I may not endorse it, but I'm enjoying it.
Like, you know, if you're in Canada, there's a church where they found like 50 babies buried underneath it, and that church got burnt down. Yeah, man, you shouldn't do that. But if it did, like, would we really be that upset?
All right. I'm moving this rail on. Jody.
Everyone take his matches.
Yeah, guys. Just whatever you do, like if you have a church that's known for corruption and killing babies and nobody's in there, so you know no one's gonna die, you should not burn that church to the ground.
Wink, wink.
All right, Jody, please, for the love of God, do trivia.
And it better all be church burning trivia.
Are we speaking of loving God? If there's a church near you and they love God, I'm just kidding.
okay, so trivia.
I love it. This is great.
At the end of this episode, should we add in one of those things that's like on the prescription ads where it's like, none of the views endorsed in this episode are mean to be taken seriously. Do not attempt to burn down
Why-
anything. If you do, you are acting on your own accord.
Jody.
And
The only thing I've said is that if you have a baby murdering pedophilic church in your area, that you should not burn it to the ground, no matter how many people would cheer your efforts. You should not burn it to the ground.
okay, trivia. So the actor. This is trivia from Jason. Jason sent it to me. I liked it, so we're going to do it. The actor Buck Henry, the guy who played George, the MC at the beauty pageant, he is the founding member of the Saturday Night Live's Five Timers Club. For people who have hosted 5 times, he actually hosted the show 10 times, which is really amazing to me because I had never heard of him until tonight. And so it's kind of amazing to me that somebody could be that big at one point in their lives on a show that, you know, I grew up with and I still watch, and I had no idea who he was. But the producers of Saturday Night Live would almost always include one of the John Belushi samurai sketches in there, like Samurai Deli and stuff like that, where he'd slice stuff up. And anytime Buck Henry hosted, and in one episode, John Belushi accidentally cut him near the eyebrow with his samurai sword. And as a tribute to his own on-air injury, the rest of the cast wore bandages over their eyebrows for the episode. So
That's cool.
Yeah, I remember I used to watch a lot of Saturday Night Live reruns. I definitely remember an episode where like everyone towards the end just shows up with like bandages all over them. You're like, what the hell's going on?
I mean, when I was in high school and college, they played Saturday Night Live and Kids in the Hall on Comedy Central all the time. So I watched old episodes of those constantly.
How did they never get John Belushi meeting Sergeant Kabuki Man?
I don't think John Belushi lasted long enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, that's a great point. Never mind.
Sergeant Kabuki Man does a seance.
I went on a rabbit hole the other day because I was thinking about, you know, the very first episode of Saturday Night Live I ever watched was with Patrick Stewart. Because, you know, I was a big Star Trek geek back in the 90s. And then when I saw like he was hosting some show and they started live, I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta watch this. And the one I remember the most is him as a erotic cake shop owner. And people came in and asked for all these different kinds of cakes, like for bachelor parties or for whatever. But all the cakes ended up being a woman on the toilet, no matter what they asked for.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Just
man.
seeing Patrick, it's on YouTube, go look it up. But just seeing Patrick Stewart just talking about women on toilet cakes.
Oh, God, this probably a childhood memory. Weird. So when I was in first grade or kindergarten, whenever someone had a birthday, you'd have a draw a picture of them or a picture for them, and the teacher would put them in a binder and or like put them all together and staple them, and you get that for your birthday. It'd be a really cool thing. This one kid, he'd always draw a picture of you pooping. Like I don't know why, it just sparked that memory. Like
Of the birthday
dude?
kid pooping.
Yeah, like I want to know where that kid is nowadays. I bet he's a CEO of some fucking shitty company.
For
like,
sure.
yeah.
For sure.
Or maybe he's
He's
running
like
a
the
church.
squatty potty magnet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you find out he works for Charmin now.
Yeah.
It's always been his goal.
He hoarded toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm,
That's a weird
single-handedly. Uh-huh.
All right. Well, that moves us to our dad advice section. And we thought because this is a episode about beauty pageants and models, we would ask Rachel to share some spooky beauty advice. And we did actually put something on Instagram asking if people had questions. And Monda, I think we got one. So why don't you pull that up?
We got a couple. So the
Or
first
we got a
question
couple.
is-
Okay, great. So
Yeah,
Rachel, why don't you take it away?
Oh, okay. Well, I do have some spooky advice for you. And like Mondo's advice about churches, maybe don't take any of it. Or do. Okay. So for those of you out there who want to appear weak, fragile, with the big watery eyes of a Victorian woman, I have good news. There is a way to achieve this look.
This is like a SNL bit.
All you need is some deadly nightshade and a willingness to sacrifice your vision for beauty. So like, no problem. Because women in the Victorian area would actually make eye drops out of nightshade in order to make their pupils dilate.
Ooh.
Yeah, so super hot. You know, that's how you get that sexy vacant stare that we all want. The side effects were headaches, blurred vision, and blindness, so worth it. Okay.
Could you
What
also could you pair that with coughing blood into a handkerchief, because that feels like a Victorian like beauty thing.
Yeah,
That was due to the
yeah.
corset. That was due to the corset, though. That wasn't.
Oh, yeah, the corsets would break ribs and move your internal organs.
Didn't they also put, I forgot what's, not asbestos, but some like some something on the face, like face powder.
Jason's gonna
Lead?
time
Are you
machine.
talking about the lead paint?
Yeah, the lead paint. Yeah.
Mhm, they would put lead. But if you thought lead was bad, I have this other hot tip for you. For those of you out there with a pale and lifeless complexion and who are seeking that glow of youth, which, like middle age is a bitch. I get it. Same. What you really need is to get yourself hands on some Thoradia, which is a night cream from France that harnesses the power of radioactive chemicals like thorium chloride and radium bromide. The cream will it stimulates cellular vitality and brightens the complexion, and it works great. That is until your jaw literally falls off from the radioactivity, which is a thing that happened. But again, beauty is pain, worth it.
This is some Crypt Keeper beauty advice. I love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right. So radioactive, that's crazy. Nobody's gonna do that, right? But have you ever considered the benefits of arsenic for your beauty routine?
I have not.
Oh, well, good news. There's two ways to enjoy its therapeutic or beauty benefits. If you want to produce a blooming complexion, a brilliant eye, and the appearance of embonpoint, which means sexy stoutness, which, we all aspire to, then what you want to do is you want to eat the arsenic. It's really good for all of those things. Folks in 1850s did just that. Or maybe you tried the radium, didn't really work, and you want to get milky white skin like a Victorian lady to go along with your glassy eyeballs. What you want to do is take a bath in arsenic, which is very effective because it kills you and then you turn into a corpse.
Hey, it does its job.
Exactly. Okay, but these are old timey. People didn't know any better back then,
isn't
right?
Isn't this the same era we could go to a pharmacist to get heroin?
Yeah, like a little opium or a laudanum. Yeah.
No, I guess
yeah.
you're getting arsenic from the beauty section, opium from the pharmacy aisle.
Little
So all balances
cocaine to perk you up.
Exactly. I mean, hey,
In your coat.
it'll get it done. So unless you think it's just old-timey ladies that are doing crazy shit for beauty, there are actually some modern beauty treatments that you guys probably want to know about, including, are you familiar with a vampire facial?
Yeah.
I have heard of this.
Okay.
Oh.
For those of you who don't know, basically it starts with drawing your blood, separating the platelets in a centrifuge, applying them back to your face, and then using microneedles to push them back under your skin, which actually it supposedly really works though. So
Well,
what are you
there's
gonna do?
actually treatments that where they'll do that to like body parts that are injured. The same thing. Very similar to that, and supposedly it does work.
Yeah, it looks kind of crazy, but it works. And then finally, this is a TikTok trend. So already it's very evil and creepy. Have you heard of the benefits of snail mucin?
Yes, that's been around for a while. So it was a Korean thing, right?
Correct. Okay. It is very popular in Korean skincare. I'm very impressed with your guys' you don't need me to do this. Y'all have the beauty routine on lock. I'm coming in here making a fool of myself when I'm amongst experts.
I've seen a BuzzFeed article or two. Like,
Okay, fair. This may be where this came from. So feeling called out, but that's okay.
so I'm pretty sure that's where I heard from too. So
yeah. So snail mucin, it has a lot of protein in it. It's supposed to be really good for your skin, makes it very radiant. But it's not cheap.
Wait, when you say mucin, what are we talking about exactly?
Snail slime.
Snail slime. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So people on TikTok, because they didn't want to spend the money for that sweet Korean grade A mucin, went out to their gardens and got some free snails and put them on their face and let them crawl around and then rubbed the slime into their face on the internet where people could see them and where it would be saved for posterity forever.
No, this is why I will not go on TikTok.
Remember when we used to do weird stuff privately?
Like
Oh my
your thoughts
God.
on fire.
hold on a second, Joey.
We did all kinds of weird stuff without people knowing. We didn't film it.
Like, what kind of weird stuff?
You know.
No, I don't. I think I need you to elaborate.
We all did strange things privately. Let's not
I
pretend.
know.
we
I'm
didn't.
so every single day of my life, I'm grateful that social media did not exist in
Yes.
High school,
my
college.
teens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got for spooky beauty tips. Is that okay?
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That was
fantastic.
amazing. Bravo. All right, Mondo, what do we got on
right.
Instagram?
John Smith asks, if I live next to a Catholic church and they're
Okay.
known for the pedophilia.
Burn it! Burn it!
John Smith Jr.
The answer is I cannot tell you that you shouldn't do anything the church that I wouldn't do. Franken Vegan on Instagram, this is a legit question, says, tell me about your beard care routine.
I'm so glad you asked. So
No, I'm a beard care nut. I've got, actually, now that I work from home, I have my beard brush.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's
And,
like a boot. That's like a boot brush. That's a big ass.
that is the
Yeah,
biggest beard
it's-
brush
it's
I've ever
It's,
seen.
it's got to be
boar
boar's hair, right?
Yeah,
I was
boar's
say
hair.
that's boar's hair.
And then I'll just keep it at my desk. So while I'm working from home, I'm just brushing it constantly. And like, even when, to be honest, when we're doing the podcast, I keep like having the urge to reach for it because we're on video. I think it's just be gross. Just be sitting here brushing my beard on camera. So I have to like restrain
that might
myself.
be some ASMR shit there. You can make some money off of it.
Yeah, there you go.
It's like
Yeah,
12
that's
hours.
behind the paywall.
Exactly.
That's on our Only Dads. This is the
Here's
brushing
a
beard videos.
12-hour loop of Jason brushing his beard and the beard into the microphone.
No, I mean, get yourself some like real beard shampoo. Don't just use regular hair shampoo because it's different hair. And then
You don't definitely no shampoo. I use bar soap, but special like fancy bar soap.
Yeah, I mean, just with it, and you know, do your research and find, you know, a beard cleansing product.
What do you guys use?
I switch it up a lot. Was it Dr. something?
Dr. Squatch.
Dr. Squatch.
Oh,
That's good
yeah.
stuff.
That's good stuff. I use
Alright.
Duke Cannon sometimes. Some good stuff that smells like bourbon. Because all men's products smell like bourbon.
All right, here's what I'm gonna tell you about your
They do.
products. Your products are subpar.
Ooh.
I have used what you have used for my beard, and I was very disappointed how it made my beard feel because I strayed from my normal brand. And I've mentioned this gentleman before, and I will mention him again, and I will tag him again in this because he deserves all the love. He runs a company out of his garage called 1740 Beard Balms. He makes bar soap for your beard. Trust me, Jody, you try his bar soap, and you're gonna be like, "What the fuck have I been using?" Because I'm pretty sure I've tried the same beard wash that you have, and dude,
Mhm.
like that makes my beard feel like fucking pubes. It's terrible.
Listen, don't yuck my yum, okay?
We're also sponsored by Manscaped. Actually, sells. No, I was kidding.
No. Actually, I talked to the guy who runs that place,
Yeah.
and he was going to send us some stuff, but all of it had coconut oil, which is a no-go for my family because my wife is
Okay.
allergic. And there's something about that Jody couldn't have either. I forget what it was.
I can't have anything with nuts. My wife is allergic.
They use almond oil. Okay.
Almond
yeah.
oil. Yep.
So anybody out there who doesn't have a nut allergy or coconut allergy, in my opinion, they make the best quality stuff. Like the beard soap is phenomenal. Lasts you a long time too, one bar, but like just trust me, the softness is wonderful. I think they make the best balms of anybody. They make one with Death Wish coffee. They make one called Patina, which has kind of like that sweet tobacco smell, which is just pretty fantastic.
I like that
and
smell
then-
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this one here in my pocket too that I'll give you one too. It's one I always buy as well. It's by a company called Jao brand, Jao. It's called Beard Scent. A wonderful orange kind of smelling balm that's just fantastic. I mean, you can also use it in your hair too. I can't read I got a little buzz going here, so I can't read the ingredients. They're tiny. But I would recommend. I'll shoot a link to it if anybody wants to see it. But good stuff. And for as far as like cutting your guys' beards, do you guys cut your own beards?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, unless I have like an interview or, you know, just want to treat myself.
Yeah. No, there is a place that I will
Oh,
go
dude,
treat myself.
I forget. You guys don't have hair.
Yeah, we don't have much hair on the top. So we
Yeah,
don't
that
gotta
makes
worry
sense.
about
Like,
that.
why would
So
Oh,
I
I forgot.
I can-
No.
Listen, it's over here stunting with his
Dude.
follicles.
I'll be there. I got like a good 6 months left and I'm there. So it's not like it's, but
Well, no, you can get yourself a good pair of clippers and just watch some YouTube videos. You can figure out how to trim your own beard.
okay, yeah. No, see, dude, I just go
The shaping.
The
when I get my
yeah.
hair cut,
So
my
if-
barber just takes care of it. It's
What,
pretty nice.
what everyone is realizing, if they didn't already know this, is bearded bald men have a beauty routine that's just as involved as any woman. We have lots of products, so we have lots of routines.
Dude, I started a face care routine. It's kind of nice.
Yeah,
I have a moisturizer and like a daily lotion I put on and an antioxidant serum or some shit like that.
Hey,
Awesome.
my daughter and I like to do the charcoal mask and the little peel off stuff. It's fun stuff. It's good night. Little spa night around
I've
here.
never done a mask. Not opposed to it. Just haven't.
I have a 12-year-old. We do
We
stuff
have,
like that.
Yeah, we have this. I got my daughter these little facial mask, like actually it's like a piece of paper soaked in
Mhm.
something. We did those together. That was fun. They were both unicorn shaped.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, that's cool.
Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and out here in Las Vegas, it's fucking the barren wastelands with no fucking moisture in the air whatsoever. So I gotta moisturize, or else my face feels like every bit of moisture has been sucked out by the universe. And it's terrible.
But yeah, as far as beard care, just just stick to the basics. Do a good wash, do a good brush, and put some oil or conditioning.
Yeah, something to
in it,
moisturize it.
and you'll be good.
Well, and even if you're like trying to grow a beard, most people just can't deal with the itchy phase.
Mm-hmm.
If you use some balm or some oil, it fucking gets rid of that because it keeps
You can
it
get through that.
moisturized. It's pretty fantastic.
Awesome.
And,
Alright.
and it's really awesome to not shave. Shaving sucks.
Yeah.
It does.
All right. Do we have anything else, Mondo?
I do shave my armpits though.
No, I mean on
Oh, okay.
Instagram.
I like this. Let's get him drunk and make him confess.
Hey man, it's not confession. But, they're a little bit. No, everyone should shave their armpits because your armpit hair just fucking. Not everyone should. If you don't want to, don't do it. I like doing it because I grapple and all that sweat gets in there and it just stinks like a motherfucker. If I don't shave my armpits, I'm a smelly dude, so I shave them.
Fair enough.
Just saying, that's my thing. If it's not yours, it doesn't have to be yours. But I guarantee you, both you motherfuckers are thinking about it now. Like, should I shave my armpits?
No, I'm not.
You're just
One
hair
day-
shaming all over the place tonight.
know, yeah.
Hey, I've shaved my legs before, and you want to know what? Felt amazing
Mhm.
until it started growing back, and I'm like, this is some bullshit. But like the first few days, when it's just like you put pants on and it's not grabbing your hairs, fucking amazing. It's an amazing feeling. Just saying.
I'll stick to my pedicures.
Dude, go for it. Pedicures are great. So
Pedicures are great.
my wife used to use like that. They call it nads. You remember that?
Oh God.
Yeah, on her legs.
Oh, that was torture device. I remember the whole thing with nads is that it was sugar. So they would
Yeah.
be like, you could eat it. You can eat
Yeah.
your nads. I'm
Well,
like,
That
has
sounds
no
weird.
one tested this script? Are we just putting this on the TV? Oh, okay. We're all eating nads.
Well,
Got it.
and the funny part, it was like the alternative to Nair. Do you guys remember Nair?
Yeah, I remember
Oh,
there.
Oh yeah.
This.
Yeah.
So like apparently like 40% of the population is allergic to shit in Nair. So a lot of people, and they say it right
It's
on
like
the fucking package.
battery acid.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So Nad's the alternative. So one time, like, my wife tried it on my foot, and I was in fucking tears.
Mhm.
Nothing in my life has hurt that bad.
Yeah.
Like
Fairly heavily, no joke.
oh fuck that. Like
Imagine it a little further north. That's when things really
you
get
know
rough.
what? Like if you had to ask me which one I prefer, like go fucking north. Let's do it. Opposed to my
Okay.
foot, I was like, holy shit, what
Are
just
you-
happened to my foot?
Good to hear. If we reach
right.
2,000
Mrs.
listeners,
Mondo, did you hear that?
Dude, I'm not getting a Brazilian on camera, dude. No matter how many listeners we get. Like,
Patreon drive.
now, if someone wants to send me $5,000, I'll fucking do it on camera. I don't give a shit. But it's gonna cost at least $5,000. Just saying. If anybody out there, yeah, like no, fuck that. Like, ugh.
all right. I think that wraps up this episode.
Was there another Instagram question?
Was there
I think
another
there was
Instagram?
No,
another
the other one was the one I made up about the churches, which made
Oh, okay.
Ah.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. That was a
Oh,
blast.
thanks for having me. You guys are great. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming on.
Where can people find you?
You can find all of our stuff is on zombiegrrlz.com. That's grrlz.com. And you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, or Twitter and Instagram at ZG Podcasts. That's podcasts, plural. We're pretty active on there. Ariel, one of my co-hosts, runs it, and she's hilarious. So we're a good follow. Check us out.
Excellent. Okay.
Real fast, I do have to bring up that on your sheet, Jason, you misspelled anecdotes, and you spelled as anecdotes, like frantic. I don't know. That just sounds like, here are funny stories about times my anxiety was overwhelming.
Well, we could have a whole other podcast about that, but for the last time, this sheet is not supposed to be spelling accurate. It's just quick notes.
I've just never seen it spelled that way, and I kind of love it.
I was more going like
Antecedents.
antique.
Antic, like
Antiques.
fuck, I'm antic as fuck, and I'm gonna tell a funny story about this shit because the world's burning, but everything's okay.
Okay. Well,
Speaking of burning, I'm just kidding.
no.
All right, Jason, we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna
Okay.
wrap this one up.
Speaking of burning things, next week we'll be reviewing What's Cooking. Great
segue.
episode with Meatloaf, and we have a great guest coming up for that, the return of Galen. All right, we appreciate everyone for
Again, really fast. If we're gonna say Galen, we have to say Boba Fett actor Galen.
yes,
That's right.
from the Star Wars universe. Maybe we'll have an update on this character. Okay, we appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate it if you would give us a rating and review on iTunes and a rating on Spotify. And we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Goodbye.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.